The Way We Were, where we unearth a thread of continuity in cinema, music, art, culture, society, and politics to discover the connection to each other. This episode contains references to rape and sexual violence against women. Listener discretion is advised.
The week leading up to Independence Day was hard to process, to be honest. Hi, this is Rima, and I truly think that when it comes to gender crimes, we still are the way we were. The Kolkata horror reminded me once again just how unforgivable defiance is in a woman. One of Nirbhaya's rapists had said as much in the documentary India's Daughter. They did what they did to her because she fought back. Ted Bundy targeted college-going, accomplished young girls at a time when the women liberation movement was just gaining momentum in the US. From then to now, any sign of assertion of agency and personal freedom can be incredibly dangerous for women. In 2016, an argument with a guard over an umbrella led to the murder of Monica Gurdesh, who was a perfumer living in Goa. Jessica Lal was shot in the head for refusing to serve a drink to Manu Sharma. Priyadarshini Mattu was killed because she had resisted the advances of a well-connected college senior. And you may have heard of Aruna Shanbag. She was a nurse, and in 1973, her conflict with the janitor led him to attack her, and the assault led to her remaining comatose for over 41 years. I have no clue why Sanjay Roy attacked the trainee doctor at R.G. Kar Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata this week. But reports say that he remains remorseless. Much like Dhananjoy Chatterjee in 1990, who had murdered a schoolgirl, Hetal Parekh, in Kolkata again, I think. He maintained till the end that Hetal was not as innocent as she seemed. Yeah, that's what he said. And now you can see how Vinesh Phogat's heartbreak is being celebrated in certain sections. It's almost as if they are celebrating the end of her defiance, of her triumphant return to the international arena and the continuum of her persecution. She spoke too much, she fought too hard, and what couldn't be forgiven is that she asserted a power she did not have. From a triumphant goddess who had defeated 3 international rivals in one day, she became a laughter emoji. The crushing of women and their aspirations is so normal that a potential world champion can be turned overnight into a butt of vulgar jokes. And the murder of a young doctor can be covered up as a suicide. I'm also wondering how quickly we will revert to business as usual once the outrage at the Kolkata incident subsides. Women do not matter much in fiction either. If you think about it, most crime shows open with the dead body of a woman. And we now also have hugely popular shows on serial killers who target women. There are multiple documentaries on Ted Bundy. Nobody remembers his victims. Rarely, though, some films and shows get it right. In 2022, Dijo Jose Antony made a film called Jana Gana Mana, which delves into not just a gender crime, but the reasons behind it. It shows the nexus between the media, the police, and the politicians, and it shows how the levers of mass consciousness are pulled and pushed to win the war of perception. I won't say that this is a perfect film, but what works for it is that it brims with genuine anger and also a tentative optimism that we will course correct before it is too late. Another show that got women right and gender crimes right was the 2019 Netflix drama Unbelievable. One of its most insightful lines was, and I quote, "Rape has 3 crime scenes: the body of the victim, the body of the rapist, and the place where the crime actually happens." The series also adds another crime scene to the list without naming it: the mind of the victim, against which a cruel warfare is waged by a brutal, desensitized justice system. What is remarkable about the series is not just that it is based on a real story, but how that story is told. For the longest time, rape has been narrated and filmed in cinema in a way that disempowers, brutalizes, and shames the female body, while showing us how it is subjugated. Here, we do not see the crime through a voyeuristic camera gaze, but in bits and pieces that survivors can bear to recall through the filter of their pain and horror. One of the most shattering moments is when Marie, a young girl, while being attacked in her own home, cannot look away from a photograph of herself in which, almost in another lifetime, her body was free, playful, full of joy, as she ran into the waves on a beach. We see the terribly invasive post-rape medical procedures that Marie, who was plagued with heartbreaking pathos and fragile strength by Kathleen Dever, has to go through post her trauma. The cold clinical questions surrounding her bruised body, her stunned mind, her faltering memory, and the wall of disbelief that she almost instantly runs into. Without a word, the series plunges you gut first into the horror of alienation and apathy that women face after experiencing an assault. When instead of support, they are offered only scrutiny that weighs the one question that is still the most relevant one in any milieu: is she believable? As a pathologically inconsiderate foster mom says about Marie to a cop investigating her case, something is off. Because the young girl hasn't fallen to pieces. Because she has a history of seeking attention. Did she really go through what she said she went through? Much later, Marie compares her own disillusionment with the theme of the film Zombieland. She says that the film reminded her that you feel let down not so much by the monsters who show you who they are, but those who are supposed to watch out for you but don't. Even people who mean well, she says, look away from you when your truth is inconvenient, when it does not fit into their normalcy. Marie is subjugated to systematic procedural gaslighting that discredits her testimony to such an extent that she feels compelled to retract it to preserve the little sanity she is left with. There are devastating shots of her lonely small frame waging a quiet wordless war for dignity. But the most powerful display of the intention behind the series appears when we see the rapist finally stripped of all vestiges of human dignity and standing in a cell without a stitch of clothing on. This is possibly the first time on film that we see a sexual predator presented without the power that cinema and society have traditionally accorded him. Here, in this moment, he is just a male body, denuded of any means to hurt another woman ever. This is an important point because in almost all forms of media and reporting, stories about gender violence disempower women with imagery that objectifies their bodies and embeds their helplessness in mass memory. The web series is based on the 2018 non-fiction novel An Unbelievable Story of Rape, written by T. Christian Miller and Ken Armstrong, and co-created by Susanna Grant, who, if you remember, wrote the screenplay of Erin Brockovich, Ayelet Waldman, and Michael Chabon. The story recounts how Marie's rape was not just dismissed as a figment of her imagination, but how she was charged with making a false police report, which is a crime punishable by up to a year in jail. And Marie, eager to snatch back some amount of peace, had even accepted a plea deal that sentenced her, among other things, to a $500 payment for court fees. This, in the end, is not a series about the rapist who hurt Marie and many others grievously. As a story about rape and retribution, what Unbelievable gets right most of all is not just the optics of how a story like this should be filmed, but who should get to tell it. So from the moment Merritt Weaver and then Toni Collette magnificently walk into the frame, the tonality of the narrative changes. In the way the two female cops talk to the other rape survivors, in the way they begin to lean on each other to find a criminal who has trained himself to be invisible, in the anger that Collette's character displays against policing, that would have been much more proactive if men were as vulnerable as women are. Unlike Delhi Crime on Netflix, where despite a powerful female protagonist, the story in the end delegitimizes civil society protests and becomes a homage to policing. Here, the story does not flinch from calling out lapses in a primarily male-centric system that underserves women at every level. Similar nuance could be found in Ivan Ayer's wonderful little film Sony, which highlighted the struggles that even women in uniform face with subordinates and seniors, and in the homes and lives that they inhabit. Marie went on to sue the city that had botched her case. She won and told the media, "I didn't want to ruin the rest of my life. I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. I wasn't going to let him destroy me." And that exactly is the biggest triumph of Unbelievable, that it vindicates what all women like Marie have known, regardless of what was taken away from them, that they are inviolable and unbreakable.
The Way We Were, where we revisit the past to understand how the ebb and flow of popular culture shapes the way we are. Only on The Podcaster.